Welcome to the Broward Report, folks. It is a Tuesday night edition of the show. Thanks so much for listening to us tonight. Lots on tap tonight, as we talked about earlier in the preview portion of the show. When we do it on Periscope, give you kind of a taste of what's going to be going on in the show tonight. We're talking about ISIS, money laundering, very interesting. Presidential politics. Who's your favorite candidate? We want to know tonight. Who are you supporting? Who do you think's going to win? There's only, what, 14 left? 15? I can't even count them anymore. But we know Rick Perry and Scott Walker are definitely out. So tell us who you're supporting, who you think might actually win this crazy race in Republican primary. Also, if you happen to be a liberal or a Democrat, tell us who you're supporting and why. Give us a call tonight, 347-884-8627 if you want to talk to us live. You can talk to us on Periscope as well if you're watching live on the Periscope app. Remember, folks, you can check out the show. We recorded on Periscope, which is up for about 4 days. After that, you can catch the show on YouTube. Typically about 24 to 48 hours, we'll have it up on the website, browreport.com. You can also go to youtube.com and search Broward Report and catch the show there, absolutely for free. We want to make sure that we give you every possible way to see the show. We are very versatile type of show. We are ever changing and ever trying to get the news and views that you can use. In a few moments, Chris Barr will be joining us tonight. He's a Republican strategist out of Southwest Florida and our co-host of the Tuesday night edition of the show. We're going to be talking to him tonight in regards to the presidential politics side. Now, let's talk about this VW thing real quick. I want to throw something out there. Volkswagen, VW, they also have the Audi brand as well. VW's gotten some trouble lately with the EPA. Apparently, they lied about their cars, their diesel engines in terms of the emissions that they put out. It's been reported that these diesel engines actually the computers know when they're trying to do an emissions test. It's kind of like one of those things when you go to school and you try to take a test and you try to get the answers and try to change it up. Yeah, they were literally changing the answers to the questions. So what they did is these computer systems, all of a sudden, they knew that the emissions tests were going on, and they changed the way the engine worked to beat the EPA at its own game. Now, how did they find out? Who knows? Maybe someone ratted them out. But the stock is down 35% in the past 2 days. So big, huge hit on them. And VW, folks, if you don't realize, is already struggling in the United States in terms of sales. One of their biggest markets is actually in China, surprisingly. And Europe, of course, is a big buyer of VW vehicles as well. So EPA strikes again. They caught them slipping, which is good. I mean, if you're going to play by the, you need to play by the rules. But just, is this the only car company that's doing this? Maybe another car company ratted them out, got them ratted out. But very interesting stuff in terms of VW getting caught with their pants down, getting their emissions test and trying to fake it until they make it. Another interesting story that's coming out is this ISIS story, funneling money. Money laundering is a huge deal, in case you didn't know. Money laundering is huge. Money laundering is when you funnel money illegally through different ways. And what happens is ISIS cannot go down to the local Wells Fargo or Bank of America and deposit money, right? They're terrorists. In case you didn't know, you might have gotten a letter in the mail within the past couple of years for money laundering, trying to figure out where you're getting your money from. And you're like, I've got one of these letters before as well. The banking institution I bank with asked me to verify a few things because I guess when you have a small business, all of a sudden they think you're money laundering or something if you're depositing cash payments and checks into your business account. So I was questioned once. Now, did I answer the question? Sure. Because I want to make sure they catch the real bad guys. But it's just very interesting. Small business owner. Really? Come on, guys. I mean, there's so much more out there than just good old me and my wife just trying to make a living. But that's what they do. They try to get the money. So what happened in South Africa, I'm going to pull the story right now because y'all need to know this story. This is a very interesting story coming out of South Africa, Johannesburg airport. They headed off a couple of ISIS guys. Jihadist couriers, suspects nabbed at Johannesburg airport with $6 million were ISIS bound, says the police down there. 5 men nabbed last month about to board a flight from South Africa's busiest airport with $6 million stuffed in bags have made hundreds of such trips. So if you're wondering how ISIS gets their money, it's not from the banks. They are smuggling the money in, apparently, and then they are buying probably equipment and goods to wage war. Now, here's the irony, folks, is they're buying material probably from the United States or Russia. Let me explain it to you. There are brokers, there are dealers, and we'll talk about Carly Fiorina in a few moments about what she has got her hands stuck in a cookie jar doing something of this type of thing. What happens is you got a legal company that sells weapons, okay, guns or munitions or whatever. They'll sell it to a real buyer, like a legitimate buyer. But this buyer becomes a middleman for the terrorist. So they will buy from the middleman, and they'll keep buying from the middleman, and the other ones, and the company that's in, Russia, United States, or any other country that's making munitions or weapons is like, hey, I'm just selling to this place. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing with it. You should know what they're doing with it. When you start seeing things on TV when they're showing up with your weapons and your munitions, you should understand there's actually a problem with that. So these guys, they took around $6 million just in this trip alone. It says the suspects, all South African, were taken down the ramp to the airport with 12 bags and approached by agents. They had 12 bags with them. The bags contained 23 million South African rand, which is their currency, and about $3.77 million in US dollars. That's a lot of cash. That's a lot of money. And they're just taking it down, just walking down. But apparently the agents were on one end and they locked the doors behind them. They surrounded them and got them. But that is, and if you go to foxnews.com and you look up this article, it's very interesting because it shows the pictures of it. This money wrapped up in paper bags and these suitcases. Just really amazing how much money was put out there. Just really amazing. And so we got Chris coming on. Chris Brody, your co-host of the Tuesday night edition of the show. Chris, how are you?
Hey, Matt. Good to be on. Good to be on Tuesday. Sorry I missed you last week, but election night, kind of busy. Things going on down in Southwest Florida. They were just going. They should have just said they were going to Vegas.
Hey, here's the thing. If it happened in Vegas, it would have stayed in Vegas. I know that's the good old saying.
$1 million in Vegas, that's okay. A couple hands of blackjack.
Well, Money Mayweather comes out with like $40-50 million each time he goes to Vegas. I mean, they're not stopping him at the airport. And I'm sure he carries in cash because that's how he does it. I mean, I've seen pictures of all the stacks of cash at his house. I mean, if I had stacks of cash like that at my house, Chris, I'm not putting it on social media so someone will try to rob my house. But that's Money Mayweather for you. But I think it's very interesting here, Chris.
I think Trump's the only one that doesn't do good at casinos.
Yeah. Oh wow, that was rough, man. That was really rough. But you know what? You're right. And here's the thing: how can you not make money at casinos? I mean, don't you have the advantage? That's why you have a casino.
They always do when I'm there.
I mean, literally, no one really walks out there with money. Either you spend it on a hotel room, you spend it all. I mean, here's the thing, Chris. We know this. When we go to casinos or gamble or whatever, we have a set amount of money as entertainment for us. It's not like we're going to walk out millionaires all of a sudden or walk out on top. If you're up by 20 or $100, I mean, you're doing pretty good because the games are rigged for the casino to make money, and that's just the way it is. And it's this interesting story about ISIS with the $6 million. This has happened hundreds of times. So if we do 100 times 6 million, we're looking at $600 million in cash that has gone to ISIS in the Middle East. And this just one place that it's happening at is in Johannesburg in South Africa. This is really scary stuff when we look at about how much money is funneling into this terrorist organization. And people wonder, it's like, how can they keep going? Well, apparently when you keep money laundering like this, you can go on forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's money moving around all over the globe, obviously, for issues like this, for things like this, to groups like ISIS. I can't see where our president believes that opening up the money lines for Iran won't somehow add to that. But maybe he's just being a little naive. Certainly, it's going to add to the amount of money ISIS sees and other terrorist organizations see throughout the world. So, it just adds to the problem that we already know exists.
Maybe he'll invite them to the White House because they're good bankers. Ahmed was a good clockmaker. So let's just invite all the ISIS guys because they're good bankers. They make a lot of money. They're good business people, apparently. So maybe you should invite them to the White House and maybe give him some tips on how to balance budgets and make money. That's, I don't know.
Somebody's got to teach him. Maybe too late for him. Maybe for Congress, the Senate, maybe they can learn. I think it's a little too late to teach this president anything.
I know.
Except how to find the exit to the White House.
Well, he doesn't know how to get to the exit, apparently, because I think we've been telling him to exit for years. It's a bad situation, and I'm glad that the Johannesburg police out there caught these dirtballs, because we've seen the ISIS videos, Chris. We know what they're up to, pure evil. And here's the thing: around 600 plus million. We're probably talking more close to $1 billion. They did it several hundred times. $1 billion worth of cash, and this is coming from people financing these people, either through shady deals, drug money, other money laundering, sex trade, all these different evils that they're using to fund ISIS. This is a problem, Chris, and some of this money is probably coming from the United States, and it's coming from all around the world. It gets to Johannesburg, gets to ISIS in the Middle East to fund this war effort that they're doing up there. I just don't know the end game. Why doesn't the President of the United States and other world leaders start saying, hey, listen, we're done with this garbage. Just eliminate the problem. And either they're cowards or they got something very shady going on, Chris.
Well, that's it. The first problem is having the necessary intelligence to find these kind of situations out, and then the second part of that is having the fortitude to do something about it, and having the backbone to actually take a stand and do something to stop it. I don't for a minute think that nations around the world, in the United States and others, I don't think that them having the ability, the intelligence to figure these things out is the problem. I really think it's the other part.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that we can get this under control. It's probably going to take an effort from a Republican president to make this right, because as we've seen with President Obama and the Democrats, it's nothing but wrong. But let's switch gears here, because I know you want to talk about this. To CNN debate.
We learned anything from that debate. We learned anything from that debate the other night. That Lindsey Graham would certainly take care of that ISIS issue.
Yeah, he will take care of it. I'm sure he would in his South Carolina own kind of way. So, okay, we got two candidates that dropped out, Chris. We got Scott Walker, he's out, and we got Rick Perry's out. Scott Walker has, I would say, begged, but he's pretty much telling maybe at least 5 or 10 lower tier candidates to get out now. I think this is probably one of those last-ditch efforts to try to derail Trump by getting behind somebody. If Scott Walker wanted to get it behind somebody, I think he should just go ahead and say, hey, listen, I'm supporting this candidate. Here's my 1%. But I don't. What's your take on this, Chris?
I think his message is right. I think his message, well, certainly not his message over the last several weeks, but his message on his last day when he announced he was suspending his campaign indefinitely. That message of seeing some of these candidates drop out of the pack. Really, if you're George Pataki and Rick Santorum,
Well, let's talk about Ben Carson for a second, Chris. I want to talk about Ben Carson because you bring up a valid point. When I look at him during the debates, he seems uncomfortable at times. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've certainly seen it. He's just not. I think he understands what he wants to do, but at the same time, he doesn't know how to communicate it to the people. He's not a career politician, Chris, and people need to realize that. But at the same time, he would have to surround himself with some very politically astute people up front. He needs if he wants to win this thing, which I would hope he would want to win this thing. He needs to get some major endorsements from some big time political players. That's what he needs right now. If he can't get that, Chris, I don't think he goes all the way. I think he might get through a couple of states, to be honest.
I've no doubt he's a brilliant guy. I mean, you have to be able to be the level of surgeon, be any surgeon really, but to be the level of surgeon that he was. I mean, it takes some genius. It's a smart mind, and I think you see that. I certainly see that in these debates. It's like he's thinking on a different plane than the other people on the stage. That doesn't necessarily make him look good on the stage in a debate, though, because he's not going to fire off these zingers. He's not going to be aggressive in how he responds. He's going to be very thoughtful, respondent to questions, and he's going to be I think, a very honest respondent to questions, which is both good and bad. You want someone honest, but it's going to get him into trouble with the press, as it has on some issues early on, and then just recently the comments about should a Muslim be president, or could a Muslim be president, would you accept a Muslim as president? I think he gave some very honest and straightforward answers, not in the same way Trump would give a straightforward answer, but in a more thoughtful way. I just don't think that's going to play out well for him from a campaign perspective.
I don't think so either, Chris. Here's the thing. You got these gotcha questions. They get these gotcha statements. And we saw a gotcha one during that one, I think it was on C-SPAN, where that supposedly quote-unquote Trump supporter accused of President Obama being a Muslim, and Donald Trump kind of just brushed it off. Either way, Trump lost in that with, I don't know if he lost it with people, but either way he answered it, Chris, if he actively engaged or didn't, it was not going to look good. And I think this was almost maybe a person that was planted in there. Because why would you want to set up your candidate, the person that you support, to look stupid on TV? Why would you do that? I think this might be more of a plant than actually a real supporter.
Of all the things that I could criticize Donald Trump for, how he handled this question is not one of them. If you watch that clip and watch that tape, as the guy starts into his question, Trump leans over and kind of half into the mic says, "Oh, this is really what we needed for the first question."
Yeah.
He didn't mean to. Yeah, that's the question I want.
Yeah, he didn't want that one.
Having been to enough debates, having done Q&As as a candidate, and having coached and run other candidates, sometimes your strongest supporters are not necessarily the people you want to hand the microphone to.
Yeah.
And so I think that could very much be the case here. I don't know that it was a plant. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it could have just been someone who was a passionate supporter and was saying what they believe
Oh yeah,
being on the stage.
that was classic Trump though.
Bring up the comments about Carly and Jeb's wife, and he didn't really lay off with anybody. It was almost like an insult show right from the start for him. He toned it down towards the end, whether it's because he was getting tired during the 9 hours a day that we watched,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. He had toned down the rhetoric a little bit towards the end, and I think that helped him gain back a little bit of respect through the second half of it. But he really came out of the gate badly, in my opinion.
Yeah. He was trying to hit Rand Paul.
Polling numbers aren't showing that,
But why would he go after Rand Paul so bad, Chris? I mean, why would he do that up front? I mean, what does he really have to gain by that?
If he's the guy in the number 11 spot on the stage, and he's only got 1% according to you, if you're Donald Trump, then why are you attacking him? Just leave him alone and pretend he's not even there.
Yeah, you would think he would do that. You would think he would have done that. But I guess Donald's always trying to get publicity. I guess he's in the business of any publicity or talking about is good, whether it's good or bad. Here's the thing, Chris. Let's look at all the candidates that are left. We got, what is it, about 14 left? I mean, we're down to 14.
I think it's like 14 and a half.
14 and a half.
Gilmore as a candidate, a half a candidate.
Yeah, it's like an over-under.
Or something here, I don't know.
It's like a point spread. We're at 14 and a half right now. How many candidates are we going to have at the end?
Okay.
Point spread.
We
Okay.
need the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, we need 2-point conversion. And it's going to be a long extra point because we don't want to have short ones anymore. Okay, so we got Gilmore. He's not really serious. We know this. But out of the ones that you would consider legitimate candidates, Chris, because I thought Scott Walker was legitimate. Rick Perry, 2012 was probably his best shot, in my opinion. Which legitimate one do you think might be the next one to go? Because honestly, these people are not raising money. They're not raising enough money to go maybe all the way to Iowa. You're going to see probably 5 of them drop off as these debates wear on. So who do you think might be the next or the next 2 that drop out, just in your opinion from what you're seeing right now?
I think that at some point soon you're going to start to see people like a Chris Christie, a Rand Paul, those are the 2 that come to mind first, because I just don't see a path for them right now. And just, listen, I'll give Walker
And that's the thing, Chris. Why would they waste all that time and energy unless they thought it was like a shot in the dark? They stick around. They might be the anti-Trump, anti-Bush, or what, whoever candidate. I like choices, Chris. I like to have choices for the candidates. There's just too many of them.
Some people manipulate this process for a cabinet position, a vice presidential spot.
Mm-hmm.
Some manipulate it for a book deal or a talk show deal, or there's all kinds of reasons to stay in and try to look relevant. Most of them aren't good, but there are plenty of reasons why they do what they do.
Well, look at Carly Fiorina for a second. I know that there's been she's surging in the polls. It looks like Real Clear Politics, Iowa Presidential Caucus shows her at 13%, Carson 17, Trump 24. So we've got 3 non-politicians in the top 3 right now on that poll. But she has been under fire lately because of her business dealings. One, with HP, they just recently announced laying off 30,000 more people and doing more consolidation. They also brought up the bad deal when she bought Compaq Computer, which is in charge of HP, and also Lucent Technologies whenever she was there and ran them into the ground. I know she's talking about her business record, but here's the thing. You're a strategist, Chris. Would you recommend anybody running on something, especially after they've had some really bad business dealings? It's like run your business record. That's the worst way to run. It's like running your voting record that's really bad.
It all depends on what your starting point was as a CEO for any of these companies and what industry and what cycle of the industry you went through as a CEO. So those are things that can be explained, but not in a soundbite, and that makes it tough.
That's the problem, because people are looking for sound bites, not the entire explanation. Remember, we do an hour-plus show a lot of times, Chris. Not everybody hears the entire show, so they just take a snippet out of it, and all of a sudden they're like, I heard the entire conversation. That's the problem. People don't have long attention spans, and when they hear this lady at this Trump rally the other day, she bought Lucent shares for around $87 a share. When she left the company or got laid off or whatever happened to her, they were worth 25 cents. She lost $500,000. Now, we can't verify it, but the story, she sounds very genuine in her story. That's a good soundbite. That doesn't look good. That will be used by campaigns to attack her, even maybe not the Trump campaign. But the attention span of people is very low. And if you get a high impact thing like that out there, that is not good for Fiorina right now and her hopes for the White House. And there's other things too. You probably heard about this too, Chris, where when she was with HP, they were selling computers and computer parts to a company in India that was then funneling it to Iran when the sanctions were on Iran. And this company that they were selling to in India was getting awards from HP for all of its buying and selling. So all these things are coming back to her, even though she may have not been aware of what was going on in the backroom dealings. She probably knew about the award, and when you're selling that much and you're the CEO of a company, I would maybe want to know what their secret to success is, because that's a lot of, I think it was in the millions of dollars of funneling of these computers to Iran. I would want to know, Chris, and there's going to be some tough questions on that. And Chris has dropped. We're bringing it back on. You there, Chris?
You hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You there?
Yep.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, she did a good job of explaining that whole sale of computer parts and computer systems on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace this last week. She did a very good job of that interview in general. It's just part of being a business person and running for office. We had a congressman that we ran a race for
Well, here's the thing, Chris. If people didn't see that Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace talking about Fiorina's dealings and explaining it, that soundbite from that Trump rally, all these things have been going out there. I mean, she's got to defend that. And here's the thing: you can't reach all those people that have heard that already and have made up their minds. If they don't hear her explanation of what happened, whether it be truth or not, they don't have the information. They're hearing things from different sources. They're not getting it straight from the candidate's mouth. Especially when you have this many candidates out there, Chris. It is very tough to keep the facts straight. I mean, we're doing a good job of it on the show, but everyday America is having the toughest time trying to make a decision because the 24-hour news cycle is full of different information, Chris, and some of the information, quite honestly, is not being shared out there. And if the rebuttal to what is said out there is just on Fox News and not on CNN and not on MSNBC and the other three-letter networks, that's doing injustice to that candidate. And the news outlets are not doing a fair job.
The news outlets are doing the job that they believe appeals to their viewers, and it doesn't necessarily involve the truth all the time. They are doing the job that's going to get them better ratings. There was nothing good for the Republican candidates in general about the questions that were asked by CNN during the debate on Wednesday night. Far too many gotcha questions, far too many pitting one candidate against another on things that nobody cares about, really, or nobody should care about. We never once heard a question on the economy, on jobs, on spending. We didn't hear those kind of things. Those are the things that matter in the country. But we heard about what Carly Fiorina's face looked like, or Rand Paul's hair, or just
yeah, we're talking about just silly things. That's all they're talking about. Just
CNN had its highest rating in the history of the network, and at the end of the day, that's all they care about.
Yeah, it's all about. And we talked about this on the show before, Chris. It's about ratings. It's about how much money that they can make off advertising. 3 hours? I'm like, that's like an NFL football game, Chris. And I mean, some of these candidates barely got any talking in.
Have you ever actually done a debate? 3 hours is like a lifetime.
That's a lot.
Getting asked the question, it just seems like it never ends. An hour and a half is long enough. 2 hours is really pushing it. 3 hours is a marathon.
They should have broke it up a little bit more. Maybe top 5, then middle 6, or the bottom 25,000, or whatever polling numbers that they're using to get this done. But I think honestly, the top 5 need to be in these things. I mean, look at the national polls or whatever. Top 5.
If you want to do it right, and you want ratings to go up, and you want people involved and engaged, then you let everybody call in who wants to, and at every commercial break, vote somebody off the stage, and then at the end of the
Wow, Chris,
how about that?
That is sweet. I mean, it's like Survivor of debates.
Like Survivor and American Idol, all that stuff. Let's not ask anyone to sing, but
we don't need these singers. Now, we need to have some musicians up there. Huckabee can play a mean guitar, probably, or mean bass. But that's interesting.
Harley was singing on Jimmy Fallon last night.
I didn't see that. How was that, Chris?
I have to admit, I just saw that she was singing. I didn't watch it.
Okay.
Just couldn't do it.
You didn't take the clickbait then. You didn't get baited into that.
I didn't. I was too enamored by the rat carrying a slice of pizza down into the...
Oh, let's talk about that for a second. Let's go away from politics for a second. This video is viral. I think it's got over 4 million views. And I think I caught it from you today, Chris. And I'm like, literally, folks, there is a rat in New York City carrying a slice of cheese pizza trying to take it down the stairs. I mean, the video is what, 5 or 6 seconds? I mean, it was very short. But this, I laughed so hard when I saw that. I'm like, this, and someone today on Facebook mentioned that's Hillary Clinton trying to take her slice of pizza. Oh, I love it. It's like, it went viral. A rat carrying a piece of pizza.
I got to admit, I shared it. I got to admit, I shared it. Yeah, it was long enough to make me want a slice of New York City pizza again. It's been too long. And think, just another day in New York. It's a rat with a piece of pizza. Head to the subway. For an appointment.
He's late for an appointment. Hey, at least he wasn't near the Chinese restaurant, because that would have been an epic fail. You would never see the rat at the Chinese restaurant. No, that would be a fail.
And you know it wasn't Chicago, because there's no way a rat that size to carry a deep dish slice of pizza.
You nailed it, Chris. You're spot on once again, Chris. He could not carry the deep dish pizza from Chicago. It had to be a thin sliced pizza from New York, because we know he couldn't carry a deep dish pizza. That's good stuff. But it was, folks, if you...
It was definitely a tourist rat, because any New York City rat would have folded that thing.
It's Ratatouille. It was Ratatouille visiting his friends and family in New York. He was a tourist. All right, let's... I know we're still talking about presidential candidates after we talked about, rats, because, we talk about politicians sometimes. Not all of them are bad.
You think we moved on to the Democrats?
Yeah.
We moved on to the Democrats.
You would think so. But let's talk about the Democrats just for a few minutes, because I think they deserve a little bit of spotlight, because we've got a criminal, a socialist, and somebody that can't even probably count to 10 that might be running. There's so many. I mean, this is the best of the best, Chris, they got to put up. They got a self-proclaimed socialist, independent, that doesn't even have a Democrat or a D beside him. He has an I in the Senate, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is promising the world to all these people. And I put up some graphics on the facebook.com/Sproul Report page. This guy is he's promising the world to people. What they don't realize, if you take all this money from the wealthy people that create jobs, you're going to have Greece. You've got to look at history. What's happening before our very eyes? The millionaires and billionaires of Greece have left, because they are saying we are not going to be taxed at 75, 80, 90%. It's not going to happen. You're not going to take all the money. So what happens now? Epic unemployment, over 40% unemployment in Greece. The banks don't have any money. And here's the thing. He would like to install that here, Chris. That's what he would like to do. Equal suffering under socialism. Because more people try to escape socialism and communism, Chris. People don't realize this. They will build rafts and boats out of garbage to get out of Cuba to get here, or from Haiti to get here to the United States. We have this all the time, and people don't realize this is not what America was about, stealing and giving to other people. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on these candidates, Chris?
Yeah, I think for Greece, 40% unemployment, I think they call that the extended holiday.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think you've got a race right now with Clinton at 42, Sanders at 24, and Biden at 22 as of yesterday's CNN poll. The interesting thing about that is Biden is not even in the race, and he's already, catching up to second place. I think Hillary's in trouble. I think she is going to not be the nominee for the Democrats, as much as I'd like her to be. As a Republican, I want to see her as not. But
Yeah, I don't know. I talk to people all the time, Chris. They're like, this election is the Republicans to lose. I mean, whoever you put up,
Absolutely.
you're going to go against a person that's more, I'm hoping, will get indicted and maybe go to prison. Hillary Clinton, for what she's been up to. Finally, the chickens have come home to roost with her, hopefully. We're looking at Bernie Sanders.
She's not indicted for a thing, and if she's not indicted for a single thing, it doesn't change the fact that the majority of Americans just don't like her, don't believe her, don't trust her, and you can't win an election if more than half of the people in the country don't like or trust you. It just doesn't happen.
And she's saying she's an outsider, and if you're using Common Core math, she's been in the Beltway for many years.
An outsider.
She's an outsider.
Outsider.
Well, the only thing she's outside of right now is prison.
2 decades. Yeah, I mean, it's been 2 decades since she's driven a car, and she's an outsider.
Well, she's outside of the norm. That's probably what she means. She's not a normal person.
That must be what she means. You got it. Yeah.
I bet if she asked.
She's outside of her mind. I don't know. She's an outsider. That's just amazing.
We should ask her how much gas prices are right now. She probably wouldn't even know what that is. I mean, that's how bad she is right now. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking at Bernie Sanders. He's a joke. O'Malley, joke. Chafee, joke. Biden, joke. I mean, this is the best of the best, Chris. I mean, these are the people that they put up to run. They can't even run a governor right now, an active Democrat governor to run. They can't even run. They can't even get that. They get a former senator, a current senator. I guess O'Malley was a former governor and a former mayor of Baltimore. But I mean, I don't know I'm trying to think about who else is even running. Webb, was Webb a governor by chance, or was he a senator? What was Webb?
I think the answer is yes. I think he was both. I'm not
He was?
100% sure of that, but I think he was both.
Okay, so we've got at least 3 senators, former or current, but there's no real executive experience in here, maybe besides O'Malley, but his executive experience is like you made Baltimore into a flat-out ghetto. That's what, I mean, he can't run on a record.
Your experience is, number 1, Baltimore, and number 2, enacting a rain tax in your state. I really don't know that that's something you're going to run on successfully.
That's hope and change.
You want to be the strategist trying to sell that.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, I'm looking at it, Chris, I'm thinking in my mind, what is the scenario that one of these people win? What is the scenario? Because I'm trying to think very logically here, Chris. I don't see, if you get any of those Republicans up there, any of them, how can they lose to one of these people? And if they do, dear Lord, is the collapse of everything that is good and that we know in this country. Because if you can't get a Republican elected in 2016, I can't even imagine it, Chris. I really can't right now.
The pizza rat would have a chance of beating any of those candidates. So
He would.
They're just all so bad.
It's terrible.
There's another poll, though. If we go back to the Republicans for a second, there's another poll that we're not hearing enough about nationally because it's not a national poll, it's an Iowa poll. But it's one that I think is important for everyone to know about, because these are the kind of polls that matter, state-by-state polling. And in Iowa, this just came out this morning, public policy polling released it. It's got a margin of error that's fairly high for one of these, about 5%. But they at least surveyed likely Republican voters, so it's a good sampling group that they use. And this poll shows Trump still in lead at 24%, Carson behind him at 17%, Fiorina at night. Some of the more interesting things, though, is that Walker was still polling at 5. So in that poll, so where does his support go? And then you had Cruz and Rubio both at 8 in that poll, which is an increase for Rubio from where he was pre-debate. And I think if anyone is gaining momentum in a very quiet, steady, well-planned way in this race, both nationally and at a state level, is Marco Rubio. I think he is someone that's coming up in the rearview mirror pretty fast, and you have to watch out for Rubio. He could be ultimately the guy. In my opinion, he could be the guy.
He's sneaky good. I mean, he can talk a big game. Now, can he get around his previous gang-of-8 immigration deal that he tried to do? That's going to come up.
Yeah, I think so.
That will come up.
He gets around it. He has to obviously survive the primaries with that as an issue, but he gets around it in the general without any issue at all. It doesn't even become a topic in the general. He's got to get there. But the other interesting thing on the Rubio front is in Florida, and this is due to be released tomorrow, polling out shows that Rubio is now second in Florida behind Donald Trump. Trump still has a lead, but Rubio overtaking Jeb right now in Florida, which is a huge deal for his campaign and for the state and for national donors and for big money donors. So that's something to watch out for. I just want to go back to that Iowa poll real quick, because they did things more than just survey who would you support. So with some of these topics that have come up lately, Matt, 69% of those surveyed agreed, this is really big, agreed that the President of the United States has waged a war on Christianity. 69% surveyed.
That's amazing.
59% think Trump. 59% think Trump's comments about Fiorina's looks were inappropriate. I don't know how that's not a bigger number, but 77% surveyed viewed Carson favorably. That was the highest of anyone by far, and only 11% unfavorable for Carson. 62% saw Fiorina as favorable, 15 unfavorable. Trump, 48% favorable, but here's where you have the flip side of that, 38% unfavorable. More people overall know who Donald Trump is than any other candidate. And Jeb, 38% favorable and 40% unfavorable.
Ugh.
The only candidate in the race right now that's got an upside-down number. So certainly something to pay attention to. And then finally, they did something that doesn't mean anything really nationally, but it's interesting anyway. And they took Trump and asked the question, who would you prefer as the Republican candidate if you had to choose between just Donald Trump and X? They asked Donald Trump and Ben Carson, Donald Trump and Carly Fiorina, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, Scott Walker. The interesting part of all of that is in every case, heads up, Trump lost.
That's amazing.
Every one of those cases. And what that tells you is to tie this back full circle a little bit, is that Walker's plea to candidates to get out of the race if they don't have a chance of winning is right on. Because as you limit the number of candidates and allow people to focus on the merits of the legitimate candidates in the race, you're going to see more of that. You're going to see Trump's numbers go down and these other guys go up. You're going to see that heads up kind of thing that we just talked about play itself out on a much bigger scale.
So here's the thing, Chris. You tied it all in, and I appreciate you doing that for all the listeners and the viewers on Periscope and YouTube. Let's say we got down to 3 or 4 candidates. Who's the top 3 or 4 that you think are going to make it towards the end. I know we're probably thinking Trump would try to make it to the end. Maybe Jeb because of all the money, Rubio. But who's that fourth person you think is going to get through? Is it going to be Carson or Fiorina or someone that we don't really know yet?
I think your top three or four, I'm going to get it in a little bit different way. I'm going to say the top four. I'm going to say Rubio, Jeb, Ted Cruz.
Okay.
And then one of the three of the others, Trump, Fiorina, or Carson. I don't think it'll be Carson, so I think you're then looking at Trump, Fiorina, and one of those two would be the part of my final four.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I can see that as well. Now, let's say, one of them got through. Let's say one of the non-traditional candidates, like say Fiorina got through, or Carson, or Trump. Of the people that are running against them, who do you think would be the VP pick of the candidates that are there? I'm thinking more Ted Cruz will probably be matched up with one of them because he's an outsider technically because he hasn't been there for a long time, but at the same time he knows what's going on in DC and he can be very helpful. But that's my opinion. Who do you think they may tap to be the VP to make that ticket a little bit stronger?
I think you've got to look, if you're one of these candidates running, your number one job, your VP, is to not be controversial. I mean, you can have taken strong positions and still be that VP person, but you can't detract from the ticket. You can't draw that spotlight from the media because you've said something or made statements that put you at odds with the mainstream or with the media. So for that reason alone, I don't see Cruz as a VP candidate. I think Rubio's VP choice number one for everybody is if he's not at the top of the ticket. Obviously, if it's Jeb, that can't happen. But I think he's the top choice for everybody for VP. I think you then look at what happened. Scott Walker may be a guy. Him getting out early may leave that reputation intact so that he could be the guy as a VP pick. He still has the Midwest stronghold and that plays well in Iowa. Kasich could be the VP pick. You've got to deliver Ohio. If you're a Republican, you don't win without it. So that's another option. We haven't talked a lot about Kasich or at all about Kasich, but he's not dropping out anytime soon because he's running third in New Hampshire right now.
Yeah.
So it's if he gets more of a spotlight and people start to see him a little bit more, he could be a VP pick. He's a good governor. He won Ohio huge in his re-election as governor. So again, you've got if you're a Republican right now, there's two states that you just can't lose. If you lose them, you lose the presidency. Period. Doesn't matter what other states you pick up, and that's Florida and Ohio. So whatever you do to strengthen, whatever you have to do to strengthen those two states for your ticket, you do.
Well, we'll see about Kasich. And you're exactly right, Chris, in terms of Ohio. He needs, if the Republicans want to win it, they got to get Ohio. They got to get Florida. So it's going to be a lot of strategy going on, definitely in the next few months and weeks coming up, and what they're going to do. But before we wrap up, Chris, I want to say thanks again for coming on and giving us your best insight on what's going on in the Republican field in this 2016 election season. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Always great to be on that. And for some reason, I'm kind of craving a slice of pizza right now. So I think I'm going to go get another slice.
Make sure there's no rat hair on it.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, thanks, Chris. That's Chris Bard, everyone, co-host of the Tuesday night edition of the show. We appreciate his insight because he brings a great insight as being a Republican strategist on everything politics. Folks, got one very concerning story, then we'll get to the feel-good story of the day. as we wrap up the show tonight. And would say thank you for everybody watching on Periscope, YouTube, thank you, and blogtalkradio.com as well. If you like the show, share the show. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from the American people what you think about the show. So definitely tell us. We love to hear from our fans, and we will do our best to give the fans what they want, because this is what the show is about. It's about you, the American people. All right. Very concerning story. Then we'll get to the feel-good story of the day, because the people demand the feel-good story. All right. U.S. soldiers told to ignore sexual abuse of boys by Afghan allies. This came out through the New York Times back on a couple days ago, September 20th. Dan Quinn was relieved of his Special Forces Command after a fight with a U.S.-backed militia leader who had a boy as a sex slave chained to his bed. This is like, okay, this is what pisses me off to no end in this country. We are allies. These are supposedly our quote-unquote friends. How can you be friends or allies with countries that allow this kind of stuff to happen? This is immoral. This is not American. This is not even humane. How do we even consider aligning ourselves with people like this? Remember, folks, we've had these Afghan situations where these Al-Qaeda terrorists sneak in and shoot our troops, attack our troops. How can you trust people in these countries? I'm not saying all of them are bad, but dear Lord, we keep seeing these stories of how they're trying to kill our troops. And now, our American soldiers are being told not to discuss this because they're our allies. How about this was your kid? How about that was your kid? That's sick. That is the sickest thing of sick. This makes me want to puke. I've never in my life heard such stupid stuff going on in our military. I'm a big supporter of our military, folks. I am. God bless America. But this is outrageous. Thank God we had some troops that came forward and said this is going on. Because this is like the worst of the worst. Scum of the earth. Scum of the earth. Gregory Buckley Sr. believes the policy of looking the other way was a factor in his son's killing. Part of the article. Another one. A portrait of Lance Corporal Gregory Buckley Jr. in his family's home in Oceanside, New York. He was shot to death in 2012 by a teenage, quote-unquote, T-boy living on his base in Helmand Province. So he was killed by one of the sex slaves. How can you look the other way? How can you? And how in the hell do we allow these things to happen in this century? We, as the United States, should be taking the higher moral ground in all situations. Now, war is war. I get that. 100%. If you fight a war, you fight to win it. But you don't do this. You don't allow this. I don't care. I mean, how is this your ally? How can you trust somebody that rapes boys or kids? How can you trust someone like that? The leadership is like out of control. Out of control. I mean, we can go on and on and on about how this administration has just like destroyed our country. We can do that for hours on end, no problem. I can just go nuts on that all day long because it drives me nuts to no end. But this is out of control. They are no friends of us. They are no allies of us. If you are raping kids, you are the scum of the earth and you should be shot. They are not to be trusted. I'm sorry. You're in a war zone and you're keeping a sex slave? What the hell's going on in that country? What is that? It is no better than when we invaded it. No better. And that's your friend? That's your ally? Keeping sex slaves? What the hell? That's my take, but Where's President Obama? Where's Hillary Clinton? Where's where's the Republicans talking about this? How can you be allied with someone that does this and allows it to happen? We cannot allow this to happen anymore. This is a real issue. This is the future of Afghanistan. These are the children. These are the future. These are the future of that country. If that happened here, we'd be calling for the castration and of the pedophile, right? But the military allows it to continue to happen there because they're our ally. Just like we're allies of Saudi Arabia, where they stone women, stone gays and lesbians. How can you be allied with them? How can you be allied with any country that demeans people? Especially if you're a Democrat. How could you be aligned with someone like that? President Obama, grow a set. Tell the Afghan military, we don't play that game. If you want Al-Qaeda to come in, that's fine with us. Because we're letting ISIS in, right? Sickness. It's a sickness. It is worse than sickness. It's pure evil. Evil. The Pentagon allows it to happen. And this goes all the way up to the president. I'm sorry, but it does. You can't tell me that the president doesn't know about this from his commanders. Say, hey, listen, we got some issues over here. One of our guys got shot and killed by one of these sex slaves. You can't tell me he doesn't know. Give me a break. He knows these things. Where are the Christians not being pulled in from the Middle East? Only Muslims. Have you noticed that? He's protecting these people. From what? We know there's terrorists involved in these groups. We know this. CIA, FBI, military, they know this stuff's happening. Stop the madness. It's out of damn control. Can a Republican candidate please stand up and say this is out of control? Maybe Donald Trump's the only one that would say it. I hope someone would say it. Someone needs to say it. Someone needs the courage to call out the evil that is. This is evil. This is nothing to play with. I'm sick of it. Everyone should be sick of it. I'm going on the record. This is pure, unadulterated evil. Evil. I keep saying over and over again because there's no other description for it. Do this to children. I guess your future in Afghanistan is going to suck because you're destroying the future. The irony of it all is they kill gays, right? Is that what they do in these Middle Eastern countries? They kill gays. I mean, this is what they're doing, right? But they don't kill them. It's just another hypocritical religion, apparently, that's going on in the Middle East. If you have power, you do whatever you want. Money and power, that's all that matters. No matter what religion it is, no matter what type of country it is. If it's capitalist, socialist, or communist. If you get the money and the power, which in this situation you got the guns, you get to do whatever you want. And we'll call you an ally. Sickness. Sickness beyond belief. Just pure evil. And that's my take on that. But as always, we talk about a lot of things on the show, whether it's politics, presidential races, economics, you name it, we talk about on the show. But we always try to keep it to, at the end of the show, where we give you the feel-good, the story of the day. Because we want to make sure when you leave the show, you can have something good to think about when you go to bed at night. We're going to post this on the Facebook fan page. So go to facebook.com/BrowerReport. You can share this story as well. Ethan from St. Paul, Minnesota, a fourth grader, donated $1,200 to the St. Paul Police Department to help fit the canine unit with bulletproof vests. He quoted, "Some dogs have vests and some dogs didn't, and I didn't think that was fair," Ethan said. This is published at foxnews.com yesterday. See, here's the thing. Good-hearted kid. good-hearted kid, 4th grader, 9 or 10 years old, doing the right thing, thinking about somebody or something else besides himself. $1,200, that's a lot of money, especially for a little kid. But he felt that these dogs deserved better. And they should have bulletproof vests. I mean, if you shoot a police dog or you harm a police dog, it is equated as actually harming a police officer. So, bravo to Ethan from St. Paul, Minnesota for doing the right thing. There's still some hope left in this world when we got kids like that think about someone else, in this case dogs, police dogs, before themselves. I love stories like that. And that's what makes America great. It's because you didn't need the government to raise taxes to get the bulletproof vest. You didn't need that. You had a kid that said it wasn't fair that all the dogs didn't get the same protection. Good kid. So we're going to post that tonight on the Facebook page. So make sure you share that with your friends and family for the feel-good story of the day. Folks, 8 o'clock, new time for our report, Tuesday through Thursday night. Make sure you tell your friends and family about the show. We talk about all sorts of things. And if you want to call in and tell us what's on your mind, do it. We want to hear from you, the American people. Remember, folks, we're on Periscope. So go to periscope.tv on your smartphone. It will direct you to download the app. Follow at Brow Report so you can watch us live when we come on the air. Remember, Tuesday through Thursday, live 8 p.m. Eastern Time for an hour plus of the show. So you can get the latest news and views that you can use. Because we're not going for the ratings, folks. We're looking out for you, the American people. Remember, CNN was talking about ratings. They're asking questions for ratings. Remember, the mainstream media frankly doesn't care about what you think. They are force-feeding you garbage to keep you entertained. Politics is not entertainment, folks. Politics is real life. If you want a reality show, it's politics. And you see these gotcha questions in these candidate forums, gotcha questions in these debates. It's about ratings and you talking about, did you see what happened on CNN? Did you see what happened on Fox News? That's not what it's about, folks. This country is on the brink of many things. It's because we, the American people, have let it happen. It's time to stop. Thanks so much for listening and watching the show tonight. I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow night live with co-host Bill Sutterberg for the Wednesday night edition of the show. And don't forget Thursday night with Barry Seacrest, co-host of ConservativeRefocus.com. And we love to hear from you. So make sure to check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com. When you search in it, Brower Report, 2 words, and you get the latest videos from our show. Thanks so much for listening and watching the show. We appreciate it. Have a great night.